Hey everyone, welcome back along to the channel today, and today I'm going to show you how I made this for around 30 quid. A wireless operated pinhole shutter. Controlled from your phone. Okay everyone, so to make my Bluetooth controlled shutter system I am using a Switchbot. Now a Switchbot is a simple little device which, when connected to your phone and you open up the app, you can simply push a button and it is designed to push switches. Now one of the things that you can do with this is in the settings, go to press mode and change that over to switch mode. Okay, and we come back. And now what that will do is when we push with the buttons, that is up, and you push the other one and that will go down, and then that will stay down, and then when you're ready you push on again and it will go back up. So the idea I had with this was to mount it on the side of the camera so it can pull open and push close the shutter system on my undo. Now what I didn't want to do was to permanently stick it on because there's a tripod thread hole there. Also I didn't want it on all the time. So I had to first think of a way of attaching it to this. Now there are a few other versions of this available. Some do a nice up and down movement, but I'm not quite sure how far the travel is on them. So I went with this one because it was more commonly known and used, and had maybe a bit more of a reliable app with it. But you can pick these up for about 25 quid. So it's not too bad. Now the first thing I had to do was obviously mount it to the camera. So what I decided to do with this was to use a tripod head plate. I picked these ones up from AliExpress because they're pretty cheap and nice and simple to use. So first of all what I'm going to do is mount it to the bottom of the camera. And next up is then mount this on top of the plate, or it was actually the bottom of the plate but on top here. Now it has got a sticky back on it which you could use, but I didn't want it to be too permanent for now. I don't know how strong this will be on that, so all I'm going to do for now is just tape it up to hold it in place. And what you want is just to overhang a little bit so the switch doesn't get all caught up too much. Now you could obviously use a bit of tape to attach that. Black tape would look nicer, or you could obviously just stick it down if you want it more permanent. But for now, for this, that will do fine. So then that will nicely sit on the bottom of the camera. Then you make sure that is lined up with the shutter you want to use and just lock it in place. So the next thing is to get a wire that goes from here to here. Now one of the issues I have had with this shutter system is its movement kind of goes like that. So when you open it, it'll go up like that. So what it wants to do is, if you don't secure it well enough onto the little knobble here, is it will just want to pull it straight off. Now I could drill through it, I could thread it and put a little thread on it, but I didn't want to damage this in any way whatsoever. So what I did was measure up this, which is 6mm, and then got hold of a grommet with a 6mm centre. Now what I'm going to do with this is with some wire. This is just a bit of copper wire out of an electrical wire. Something like a paper clip would work fine, any sort of wire really, as long as it's not too flexible. And then what we're going to do is just wrap it around that. Now when you've done that, make sure it fits. Now you want to have that so it's snug. What I'm doing is just putting a bit of pressure on the back, just so I don't end up pushing it all through. So that's not going to come off. Now if you find that it is too loose, just keep twisting it up into that, and it will make that a bit tighter. Okay, so let's attach this to the switch. So the switch is currently in the, there we go, that's in the closed position. So we'll put that on, and the switch has got a little gap just in it here where we want to thread that through. Now I'm going to leave a bit extra because might need to bend it around a little bit, so I'll start up a bit here and we'll just bend it around. Let's trim off the excess. And poke it through. Now you want that to be quite loose on there, so it will actually move with the switch. And what we're going to do is just bend it around so it sits over it. Right, the first attempt. Let's give it a go. Right, so this is the first thing that we'll notice, is it will open and then it will shut back down. So this is just where it's getting slightly caught up around here. So we'll just open that up again. And just make this a bit tighter around here. So what I'm going to do is just bend that open, give it a bit more play. Okay, so that is sitting much better. I think part of it at the moment is just this grommet is sitting a bit tight to the camera. So I'm just going to make sure that sits up a little bit. It's adding a bit too much friction onto it. So that is working better. So a lot of this is just a little bit of bending and twisting. I have it going down and then try and bend it back here so it keeps it on to the shutter nice and flat. You want a bit of movement up here as well so it doesn't try and pull it off too much. Now if you're finding what this does actually do is, let's say we open it up, it will open, a bit of a delay, and then it'll come back a little bit. If you're finding that this is going back too far and getting in the way of the shutter, in the app you can go into press and hold time. So let's say we just add 8 seconds to that and come back. Right, so when we do it now, let's go off. For 8 seconds it will now be putting permanent pressure onto that to keep it closed, but in that time you cannot override it or open it, and then after 8 seconds it just drops back a bit. It's the same with the on. So throughout that 8 seconds it's permanently pulling the shutter open, then after 8 seconds it will just gently ease off again. Yeah. Now throughout that time, like I said, you can't suddenly close it, so you could use that as a bit of a timer if you had an exposure time from anywhere between 1 second and 60 seconds. It would give you a guide as when that time's up, you'll hear the motor just ease off a little bit and then you can close it. So you could use it as a bit of a timer, but how it is at the moment for me, I'm finding that it's probably going to be opening it more than enough and closing it more than enough. I can't see that getting in the way whatsoever. Now if I wanted to, I can pop that off, loosen that off, move it down, tighten it up again and put it onto my other one. And that should hopefully work for that one. And off. And there you go. We'll get out and we'll give it a test. This way. Okay, so what benefit is this going to have to pinhole photography? One, if you've got maybe fat fingers or a funny shutter, you're going to have less wobble opening and closing it. Two, if you have got your camera in an awkward or out of reach position where you want to take a photo, you can just remotely control it. And three, if you don't want to ask models to be in your photo, you can just be in it yourself. Sure, you can open the shutter and run into position, or instead of that hassle, stand there, open and close it yourself. So unfortunately the batteries on the GoPro ran out on the last 2 photos, but it's not a problem. Overall I'm really pleased with how the pictures come out. I think this is going to be good fun to use. I like the images with the me posing, as much as I hate that. I kind of quite like the look and feel it could be something that will lead into maybe a bit of a series for some future photos. But the other thing is, will this fit other cameras? With my 0.45, unfortunately this setup does hang over a bit too far on the edge and makes it a bit too tight to pull the shutter open. So if it was mounted, it has got a thread mount here, so if it was mounted right on the edge, it would actually work really well, which would be good, because I use this, if you've watched a few of my other videos you'll know I've done a few action camera shots of this, and to have that remotely controlled will be really, really good. So I am going to make it so it fits this. I may buy one of the cheaper Chinese ones to see how that works, to see if it works a little bit better, and maybe fit it to that one. I'll just see how that goes. It will be a bit more of a struggle to fit it to the medium format style cameras, particularly something like this, because there's nowhere on the sides to attach it. I think the only way of really doing that is to have kind of like an L bracket from here then up, and then that should nice and easily mount on the side. I think particularly with the shutter system on the Holga this will work, because it's got quite a nice push button, so it's got to sit in there and it'll just push it in quite nicely. So I do think it will work nicely on the Holga, and that is again something I will be trying. So it'll just be a case of an L bracket and just something to mount it on the side. Other cameras it might struggle. It's certainly going to be fine with the Ondus and the Zero images. Some shutter systems it won't work at all, to be honest with you. But yeah, that is it. It's not going to win any design awards or beauty awards, but it does the job, and I am going to improve it a little bit and see what we can get out of it. So anyway guys, thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.